Three words that shook Western civilization to its core. God is dead. You've heard this phrase 1,000 times. You've seen it on t-shirts, in memes, in debates between atheists and believers. But here's what almost nobody understands. Nietzsche was not celebrating the death of God, he was terrified by it. He wasn't throwing a party, he was sounding an alarm. The man who wrote those words wasn't an arrogant atheist mocking religion. He was a philosopher staring into an abyss so deep, so terrifying, that it eventually consumed his own mind. Warning, not celebration. What Nietzsche saw coming over 100 years ago is happening right now. The collapse of meaning, the rise of nihilism, the desperate search for something, anything, to fill the void left behind. And today we're going to decode what he actually meant, why it matters more now than ever, and what it reveals about the crisis unfolding inside every single one of us. Stay until the end, because the final revelation might change how you see your entire life. The Madman's Cry. The year is 1882. Nietzsche publishes a parable that will echo through the centuries. A madman runs into a marketplace in broad daylight carrying a lantern. He's searching for God. The people in the marketplace laugh at him. They mock him. But the madman isn't crazy. He's the only one who sees the truth. God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. Notice something crucial. The madman doesn't say this with joy. He says it with horror. He asks the crowd devastating questions. How did we drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? What were we doing when we unchained this earth from its sun? The people just stare at him. They don't understand. And that's exactly Nietzsche's point. The most dangerous moment isn't when you lose your foundation. It's when you lose it and don't even realize what you've lost. The crowd had already stopped believing, but they had no idea what that meant. The madman smashes his lantern on the ground and says he has come too early. Humanity isn't ready to face what it has done, but this leads us to something even more unsettling, the question of what exactly died. What really died? Here's where most people get it completely wrong. When Nietzsche said God is dead, he wasn't making a statement about theology. He wasn't arguing whether God exists or doesn't exist. He was making a statement about civilization. Civilization. For thousands of years, the idea of God served as the foundation of Western morality, meaning, and purpose. It told people why they existed. It told them what was good and what was evil. It gave them a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It gave suffering a purpose. Morality meaning purpose. And Nietzsche, watching the rise of science, rationalism, and Enlightenment thinking, realized something terrifying. That foundation was crumbling, not because someone destroyed it with a single blow, but because it was slowly eroding beneath everyone's feet. People were still going to church, they were still saying the words, but deep inside, the belief that had anchored everything was dissolving. If this realization is hitting you right now, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring the depths of human wisdom with me. Because what comes next reveals why this matters to your life specifically. When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The abyss Nietzsche warned about wasn't just philosophical, it was deeply, terrifyingly personal, and that brings us to the real danger he foresaw. The void within. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever felt a strange emptiness that nothing seems to fill? You buy things, you achieve goals, you scroll through endless content, and yet something still feels missing. That emptiness is exactly what Nietzsche predicted over 100 years ago. He understood that when a civilization loses its central source of meaning, the void doesn't announce itself with thunder and lightning. It creeps in quietly. It shows up as boredom, as anxiety, as the feeling that nothing really matters. Nietzsche called this nihilism, the belief that life has no inherent meaning, no objective purpose, no ultimate value. And here's what makes it so dangerous. Most people don't even know they're nihilists. They fill their days with distractions. They chase pleasure, status, and comfort. But underneath it all, there's a quiet desperation. As Thoreau once observed, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Nietzsche saw this coming like a storm on the horizon. He knew that without a replacement for the moral framework that God provided, people would either descend into meaninglessness or grasp desperately at false idols. False idols everywhere. And speaking of false idols, what Nietzsche warned about next is playing out in our world right now. False gods rising. Nietzsche predicted that when God died, people wouldn't simply accept the void. They would frantically search for replacements, and those replacements would be far more dangerous than what came before. They would worship the state, ideology, money, fame, anything to fill the gap. Look around you. What do people worship today? Some worship political movements with religious fervor, treating leaders as messiahs and opponents as demons. Others worship money and material success, building their entire identity around their net worth. 1. Political ideology becomes religion. 2. Wealth becomes the measure of worth. 3. Fame becomes the path to immortality. 4. Technology becomes the new salvation. Nietzsche warned that these substitutes would be catastrophic because they lack the depth and moral structure of what they replaced. A political movement can't answer the question of why suffering exists. A bank account can't comfort you on your deathbed. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Without a genuine why, people cling to shallow hows. They optimize their lives without knowing what they're optimizing for. They climb ladders without checking if they're leaning against the right wall. The replacement gods always demand more and deliver less. But Nietzsche didn't just diagnose the problem. He proposed a solution so radical, so ambitious, it became his most dangerous idea. The Übermensch. In the face of God's death, Nietzsche didn't despair. He issued a challenge. If the old foundation is gone, then humanity must create a new one, not by looking up to heaven, but by looking within. He called this vision the Übermensch, the overman, the human being who transcends the need for external meaning and creates their own values from within. Übermensch. This isn't about becoming a superhero. It's about becoming the author of your own existence. The Übermensch doesn't wait for someone to tell them what's right or wrong. They forge their own moral compass through strength, courage, and radical honesty. Create your own values. But here's what most people miss about this idea. Nietzsche wasn't saying everyone could become an Übermensch. He feared that most people would do the opposite. They would become what he called the last man, the person who seeks only comfort, avoids all risk, and lives a small, safe, meaningless life. Man is a rope tied between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss. You are either climbing toward greatness or sinking into comfortable mediocrity. There is no standing still on a rope over an abyss. And this tension between the Übermensch and the last man leads us to something Nietzsche considered even more terrifying. The last man. Nietzsche's most chilling prophecy wasn't about tyrants or wars, it was about comfort. He described the last man as someone who has given up on greatness entirely. This person doesn't suffer, but they don't truly live either. They blink and say, "We have invented happiness." And they truly believe it. Does this sound familiar? Think about it. We live in an age of unprecedented comfort. We can order food without leaving our couch. We can watch 1,000 shows without ever being bored. We can connect with millions of people without having a single meaningful conversation. The last man doesn't ask hard questions. The last man doesn't create anything new. The last man consumes, scrolls, and sleeps and calls it a life. The most dangerous prison is the one that feels like freedom. Nietzsche saw this coming in 1883. He described our world with terrifying accuracy over 100 years before smartphones existed. Comfort is the enemy. The last man is not a warning about someone else. It is a mirror held up to our own face. But if both the void and comfort are traps, is there any way out? Nietzsche believed there was, and it begins with the most terrifying thought experiment ever conceived. Eternal return. Imagine this. A demon creeps up to you in your loneliest hour and whispers something devastating. This life as you now live it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more. Every pain, every joy, every boring afternoon, every heartbreak, every triumph, all of it repeated for eternity in the exact same order with no changes whatsoever. Nietzsche called this the eternal return, and it wasn't just a thought experiment, it was a test. The test. If the idea of living your exact life again forever fills you with dread, then something needs to change. If it fills you with joy, then you have achieved what Nietzsche considered the highest form of life affirmation. Would you choose this exact life again and again for all eternity? Most people can't honestly say yes, and that's the point. The eternal return forces you to confront whether you're actually living or just existing. It strips away every excuse, every someday, every I'll start tomorrow. Live now or never. This concept connects directly to what might be Nietzsche's most beautiful and misunderstood idea. Amor fati. After all the darkness, after staring into the void, after confronting the death of God and the terror of eternal repetition, Nietzsche arrived at something extraordinary. Not despair, not cynicism, but love. He called it amor fati, the love of fate. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it, embrace it completely. This is Nietzsche's ultimate answer to nihilism. You don't run from the meaninglessness of existence. You don't hide behind false gods or comfortable distractions. You look at your life, all of it, the suffering, the failures, the losses, and you say yes. Say yes to life. My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati. That one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. This isn't passive acceptance. This is the most radical act of courage a human being can perform. It means taking full ownership of your existence. It means creating meaning in a universe that offers none. It means becoming the artist of your own life, painting on a blank canvas with the colors of your own choosing. Not because someone told you to, but because you chose to. And this brings us to the final truth, the one that ties everything together and reveals why Nietzsche's warning matters more today than it ever has. So here we are, over a century after Nietzsche wrote those 3 devastating words, God is dead. And now you understand what he truly meant. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't mocking. He was mourning the loss of the foundation that held everything together. And he was warning us with desperate urgency that without creating new meaning, humanity would drown in nihilism, worship false idols, and settle for the comfortable numbness of the last man. The death of God was never about religion. It was about the death of meaning itself. But Nietzsche also gave us the answer, the Übermensch, the eternal return, amor fati, create your own values, live so fully that you would choose this life again forever. Love your fate, not in spite of the suffering, but because of it. Create meaning, love fate. The question is no longer whether God is dead. The question is what you will build in the space that remains. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. If you made it this far, comment amor fati to prove you're among those who choose meaning over comfort. The wisdom of the ages is yours. Use it well. If this unlocks something in you, hit like and subscribe for more. The vault has more wisdom waiting.